welcome to Cerulean Days. So yes, I am trying to do another visual novel. I don't know how long this one actually is offhand, but to my knowledge it is not publicly available, so hopefully you'll be seeing it here before you actually see it in other places. But otherwise, this is the third visual novel, at least that I know of, made by Leaf. The first one being Anami, the second one being Winter Days, and this is the third one. And unlike the other ones, this one actually does have an R18 version, as you see here. So I put that up there just to let you know that, yes, this one is one of those. Now, you can get a censored version with some of the stuff taken out of it. That's kind of at your discretion, but yeah. I don't know how you would go about picking up this game just yet, because as I mentioned, it's not publicly available. And to give you a quick premise of what to expect, I don't actually know when the writing for this thing started, so it's going to actually be very relevant. So, from what I understand, there was a pandemic that wiped out most of the life on their planet, and they are trapped on an island trying to get off. So that is the very, very rough summary of it. I'm not going to mention what on the island they're trying to get away from. That I'm going to let you figure out. But otherwise, I believe those are your three heroines that you can choose to pursue. So yes, unlike Winter Days and Anami, there's actually multiple female leads. Misty rain, fierce winds. My legs feel cold as they dangle off a cliff's edge. It makes me wonder, would the water warm me up or chill me further? If I went in head first, would the mesmerizing stillness of the enfolding water soothe my gloomy heart? In the midst of water or not, these forces of nature don't seem to be running out of energy just yet. It appears I have some spare time. This floating rock I'm on, surrounded by miles of dark blue ocean, is my home and birthplace. Its name is Inray Island. The current scenery is misleading, to say the least. You see, the weather is normally far more pleasant than this. In fact, people typically call our island's climate miraculous concerning its location. Geography has never been my strong suit, so I won't be able to go into the technical aspects of it all. But the wind carries heat from tropical areas down south, and it does more often than it's scientifically supposed to. Our summers are warm, but not painfully so. Humid as well, but not too oppressive. Winters are short and dull, insignificant most would say. We pride ourselves on the fact that the majority of the year is mild and pleasant here. We commonly refer to the island as our very own miracle. It is prone to sudden bouts of thin rain, however, much like this one. Now that I've told you about some of where we are, I'll tell you why we're here. I'd like to talk, and the subject requires a fitting backdrop, a fitting atmosphere. So how perfect that we're precisely here. When it gets dark and rainy like this, my mind tends to assume a melancholic state. But I'm typically not sad, not truly. On the contrary, I'm often grateful. More than once it's helped me step back, refocus, and see the larger picture of a problem bothering me. I'm not superstitious or religious, but sometimes I wonder if days like these are made to serve this specific purpose. Today, loneliness is on my mind. Loneliness is what I'd like to talk about. I have my own thoughts on the subject, but since you're today's guest, I'll let you go first. Have you ever felt lonely? This is the one question I'd like to pose. So, how am I supposed to reply? Well, yes, you're very right. I suppose it'd be difficult replying to me, so for the sake of the discussion, allow some speculation on my part. Yes, chances are you have. It's proven that in the 21st century, people are more lonely than ever. It's real. And it's hurting people in developed societies far more than any plague. Some, it even kills. It's not a pleasant thing to think about. I know it. You know it. Maybe you felt that the prospect of finding the ideal partner is difficult or even impossible. That you'd want nothing more than someone to share the wonderful everyday with. The simple things, the happy things, the sad things. All things a couple are supposed to share. As I was looking out over the city during one of these gloomy nights, with the windows fogging up and the rain thundering down on the roof above me, I had this fleeting thought. What if the internet is a major reason for our isolation? And what if we haven't seen the end of it? The World Wide Web went live in 1991. That puts less than 30 years between now and then. 30 years to measure its consequences on the human race, on the individual. In case you're wondering, I believe the setting is supposed to be 2019, so we're past the 30-year point. In entertain my whim. Technology was meant to aid, and it did, but I think no one would deny it became so much more than that. It changed how we live in ways we hadn't imagined. You with me so far? Now imagine this, a life without the internet. A scary thought for many, perhaps you included, but think of what it entails. Imagine a world without phones, messaging, social media, a permanent state of offline. To some, it'd be a new opportunity to get out there and meet people face to face, people you otherwise never would have met, people in the same situation as you. It forced you and everyone else to come out of their shells, no wireless crutch to fall back on, only face to face, only real life. If it became reality, would you weep tears of joy, of sorrow? Would you live on in solitude, too stubborn or resigned to attempt to adapt? Or would you seize the moment, live offline to the fullest for all the time you wasted online? Would you let yourself live in the society around you as a real physical individual among people just like yourself? Regardless of your answers, it's an interesting what-if scenario, isn't it? Truthfully, the reason I'm bringing it all up isn't an accident. It isn't random. Because for me, it isn't a what-if, not anymore. On a day just like this one, just as somber and damp and horrifying, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was informed it'd become my reality. I could hardly believe it. What had the world come to? What would become of it? What would become of me? Little did I know it only applied to our floating rock of an island, because something terrifying had happened to us. Let me explain. The year is currently 2020. On an absurdly hot summer's day 2 years ago, an incident took place that will go down in every history book on Inray Island as extraordinarily ruthless. A virus dubbed the Inray Plague, unleashed by humans, targeting humans, over a course of 6 months it afflicted the majority of our nation's population. It was a senseless attack. It didn't pick and choose its victims. It was terrorism, and it was absolute. The bioterrorists knew we were so packed in this tiny slip of land that a small bug could burn our populace out in a snap. For us, an attack like this was entirely unheard of, and we were entirely unprepared. Those responsible need to be found and executed. Those were the words of that time. The details of the incident were unclear, but one thing wasn't. The internet had been used to plan and execute the attack. Without the internet, it wouldn't have been possible. That much was a given to the people of Inray Island. After a desperate scouring of the internet tracked down those responsible, the biggest referendum of 2019 took place. Its purpose was to create better chances of catching the culprits, and its results weren't surprising to anyone. A resounding yes. The terrorists were soon caught. A majority of voters, most having lost someone close to them, signed off to have the internet monitored and controlled by the government. An attack like this one could never happen again. That was the consensus. Dominoes had already been set in motion. Those responsible were found and executed. But even today, there are still unanswered questions. Officially, there is no comprehensive explanation as to how and why the attack was carried out. A certain group of tinfoil-wearing individuals put the blame on the Jews, other on the Illuminati, and some say it was an inside job. But your average citizen wasn't quite sure about the details. They had suffered loss and were too upset to care, so the natural course for most was to put the blame on the publicly identified culprits, and that was that. Let's put it behind us. For now, the culprits are dead. These were the words of that time. The government of Inray Island began to rule over what information was available on the internet with an iron grip. Some say they took it too far. Having given up the right to browse the internet freely, laws were put in place. And today it's said that the only reason it's still like this in 2020 is because of the lack of internet as we know it. An interesting development, to be sure. A very central tool for assembling similar thinkers was gone, for better or worse. Chatting as we knew it was gone. Browsing the internet as we knew it was gone. Phone calls, mails, texts, gone. Communication online today is non-existent. All that exists now in 2020 is an internal government-controlled network with essential internet services such as banking, a state-run Wikipedia, and healthcare services. And so, behind the scenes of Inray Island, the dominoes that had once been set off had begun to warp. They weren't even dominoes anymore. They had turned into playing cards, the cheap plastic kind that can't be scratched, yet will bend from a gust of air passing them by. A house of these cards had been built. It's still standing, forced in place by laws acting as cement. No one was anonymous anymore, and no one ever would be again. Assuming you wanted to use the internet, of course. If you are fine without the luxury of the new internal network, you can simply opt out of ever gaining access to it. So while you could opt to stay off the government's radar, it meant giving up all online privileges. This year in 2020, many went offline permanently. My main point is that life on Inray changed drastically after 2018. It brought both good and bad. A common train of thought among people is to focus on the positives of the situation and appreciate the fact they're still alive. Not everyone shared this way of thinking, and not everyone had been too affected by 2018. Like me. My name is Michael. I lost my family many years before the attacks of 2018 even took place, and my best friends are books. I live with my old middle school teacher. Crazy, I know, but she took me in out of kindness when my family passed away. And amidst that craziness, this story will shortly begin. I guess it's time for me to return home. Seems today is not the day I'll find out what's beyond that pitch-black surface. But I have to be careful. One slip up, and I'll be swallowed whole. Sometimes I think I wouldn't mind. To go in such a place of beauty is not something I fear. I take one last look in the dark spectacle, turn a brilliant array of colors, then get up and start walking towards the nearest bus stop. I know I'm an outlier, bearing old scars. That's why I dedicate days like this, one to mull over the present and past, the causes for everything and the possible what-ifs, the bright, the dark, them all. I'm reminded daily of the fresh wounds of my fellow citizens, and their pain pains me. Because the truth I've learned is a simple one. We all just want to live out our lives in happiness, among equally happy loved ones, one cerulean day after another. This is a story about loneliness, the invisible plague of the 21st century, a story about blossoming friendships, love, and all the other wonderful and terrifying things an offline society has to offer. It's where your future best friend lives. It's where your something lives. They're waiting. It's auto-scrolling right here, in case you're wondering. For me, for you, and for everyone to come together as it was meant to. Welcome to Inray Island. Welcome to my face-to-face reality. Cerulean Days, Cascade of Leaves. So I think that's the name of the studio. And you can see Leaf is the writer, Sunako is the artist, same for Anami and Winter Days. So right now we're still in the common route, part 0 prologue. And to be honest with you, I don't think the info dump right there is like the best way to start literally anything. Be it that a book, game, movie, literally anything. Like, I think an in media res type thing where you've had a little bit of seeing what their world was like and then finding out what was going on may be a little bit better, but let's see how the rest is executed, shall we? Michael, it's starting. A voice comes through my door. My eyes have been focused on the tiny text in a large book for the last hour. I look up, realize how unsharp my vision is, and sense how they desperately try to refocus. My caretaker Grace is in the doorway of my room. Though I'm not sure if she can still be considered my caretaker any longer. I'm of age nowadays, but it's a habit of the past to refer to her as such. Come on, wouldn't want to miss it, right? Yeah. My heart makes a double beat as the meaning of her words sink in. Today is a big day for Inray Island. I get up from my reading chair. It's where I spend most of my free time. Ever since the internet went down, reading has more or less become my sole pastime. It'd be a lie claiming it wasn't prior to everything that happened, but nowadays there isn't much else going on in my life. Without distractions, I'd begun to devour words like they were nothing. My last binge was a highly immersive light novel series called Overlady. Summer break will soon be over, and that'll mark a 2-month period without internet access. On tonight's news, they're going to address the new countrywide restructuring of the internet. Out of all the times you could be spacing out, why now? They even have a countdown, see? 20 seconds till the broadcast begins. Here, come sit down. Grace taps the middle spot on the sofa, urging me to sit down. I obey, sinking into its fluffiness, and then she promptly sits down next to me. With one light tap, she turns on the audio of the television. I shoot a glance towards the clock on the wall, 1900. You are tuning in to the national news of Inray Island. The date is March 1st, and my name is Georgia Russell, your news presenter for the evening. Today, a long-awaited statement from our chief internet restructure operation, Neoptolemus. I'm I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. Dylan Weiss. The wait has been long and for many unbearable. Today we're diving right into how we as a nation will proceed with the operation. Ladies and gentlemen, your Chief of Operation, Dylan Weiss. Good evening, citizens of Inray. Today is a big day. It's a day that will go down in history as a magnificent accomplishment, as a day that will always remind us that we made the right decision together. To get to the point, tomorrow the internal system we spent the last year developing will be activated. Do not worry, that is the core of my message to you tonight. Do not worry, citizens of Inray Island. Your phones will revolt to your PCs and gaming consoles too, but this is for the greater good. We all know the tragedies we suffered in 2018. This will set an end to all of that. You've never... I think that's supposed to be you'll never be safer than you'll be tomorrow. Either you've never been. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. sharp, an update has been scheduled for all of our smart electronic devices. We ask that you turn on your PCs so they can begin to pre-download the patches already. Grace taps me on the shoulder. Did you leave the PC on like I told you? I want to check out all the new apps first thing in the morning. She's beaming ecstatically as she bounces up and down on the fluffy sofa. Yes, Grace, I left it on. She grabs my arm and squeals with joy. Would it really hurt to act your age sometimes? I won't even be able to sleep properly. As you can tell, it's a big deal for many. Despite how things may appear deep down, I know Grace doesn't think of the new system as any trivial matter. But the fact that she feels excitement about the announcement despite that tells me the extent of it all. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not concerned nor bothered, ecstatic nor hopeful. More than anything, I'm indifferent. As far back as I can remember, I've always been something of a loner. Like I told you earlier, my best friends are books. In modern times like these, I'm an oddity for many reasons. After installing Facade Book, I uninstalled it. Then I returned my newly purchased smartphone to the store. I felt shame for thinking it had been a good idea in the first place. Just kidding, I kept the phone. I knew Grace wanted me to. She loves sending me pictures of various things. Makes her happy, so I didn't mind. One time, my comment on one of her pictures wasn't elaborate enough. Her words, not mine. She started asking me all the difficult questions in class out of spite. It was not a good time for me. I'm getting off the point, so I'll stop now. What I'm trying to say is simple. I think I'll have an easier time adjusting than most. I look at the woman in question next to me, still occasionally squealing in excitement, head bobbing up and down, and wonder where her seemingly endless energy comes from. Although using it on a daily basis, Grace is the type of person that never really understood the fundamentals of modern everyday technology. Students would laugh, myself not included mostly, as she fiddled with the audio during presentations to get it to work, then while failing miserably, asking for help while she stood over her laptop with a pouty face. Basically, she enjoys the daily shortcuts technology allows for, but has never really been attached to it, except for sending me pictures of her coffee, and eggs, and other unremarkable things like that. I direct my attention back to the TV. We believe it is for the best, and evidently, so do you. It's for our future and our children's future. It might be hard for some of us to adjust, but there will be support available to anyone that feels substantially affected during this time of transition. He goes on to explain the functions of the new internal network. That's so handy to have it all in the same place like that. You mean how there'll be no room for confusion as to what button to press? Yeah. Well, that's to be expected. It's a simple system made specifically for a few key features that are absolutely necessary, such as personal finance. In a lot of ways, it's a lot like Grace's old phone. It was the kind made for, simple people. There are no ulterior motives behind the new system, or so they say. It means online advertising, for example, is also a thing of the past. There are no longer any profits to be made online at all. The whole thing is a state-controlled mechanism with only the residents of our country's best in mind, supposedly. With that, I'll be taking my leave. Rest well, for tomorrow your lives will take a turn for the better. Let us all put the past behind us. The broadcast ends. Better, huh? Don't think about it too much. It's not like you can do anything about it anyway. Just like I can't do anything about it, right? Yeah. Then again, you count as a relatively high-ranked employee of the state, don't you? So you, unlike me, will still have access to a state-authorized phone, internet included. Right you are, but only for work purposes. I've been told to regain them in only a few days. So excited. Grace stretches and lets out a yawn. Well, I'm heading to bed. Early morning and all. Not that an aloof student like you would know anything about that yet. In a split second, her relaxed expression turns into a small grin. Right. The start of the summer term is closing in. I'm starting my first year of university in just a week. A 3-year sociology program at the University of Inray. Night, Grace. Night-night. She walks off in a goofy manner, waving her hand behind her. I wasn't too excited about university, and I'm still not. But now there's this thought lingering in the back of my head. Due to these changes, what if it's going to be entirely different from what high school was like? Nose and phone, swiping, chatting, giggling, being noisy. I don't miss any of it. Deep down, had I wished for this? I'm not sure. But it turns out I had underestimated the effect of all these changes. I knew it was huge, but could have never guessed the consequences. On the compact island of Inray, I'd soon discover an entirely new world waiting for me. It was nothing like the world I knew. And so my first day of my first term of sociology had come to an end. It was with a jittery feeling in my stomach that I had left the auditorium. Everything was new, exciting, and scary. After that, I had sat down in the university library for an hour or two to read. Not any heavy reading for my new class, but rather fiction on my e-reader to help me wind down. Soon evening was approaching, and I decided to make my way towards the best patisserie in the neighborhood, La Lorelei French Bakery and Cafe. It was right next to my new school, so reference to Anomi. The last thing I had done before the internet went down was a thing of shame. No, not that. What do you take me for, a degenerate? On Eatlog, they had a perfect score. Now, their score had always been entirely immaterial, as only a memory lingering in select people's minds. It could no longer be viewed or observed by anyone ever again. Technically, it no longer existed. But I knew of the score they used to boast, so I'm heading there, desperate to sate my sugar addiction with some magnificent pastries. The street is busy, but as soon as I make it into the smaller shopping mall, the atmosphere settles down. In here, only shoppers of expensive goods can be spotted. Frankly, they look wealthy. Every one of them. A single thought, and I'm sent down a spiral of insecurity. A security guard looks at me. I get the feeling they're everywhere nowadays. Do I really stand out that much? I ignore his stare, spot the patisserie, and begin to walk towards its massive glass case. Behind it, a well-proportioned girl towers over a wide array of gorgeous pastries. "Welcome to my domain," her amethyst eyes tell me. As our eyes remain locked together, I feel my chest tighten. The electric aura around her has sent my heart into a state of shock. It takes me a split second to decide that the long white hair she wears with pride is decidedly out of this world. It's dazzling, radiant even, so far that it makes the air around her come alive in a way I've never seen before. Wearing a professional expression, she smiles. Her stare is intense yet kind. Daughter of a noble family, nothing else makes sense. Hello. As if pulling two magnets apart, I break eye contact with the attractive girl. Michael, get a hold of yourself already. You couldn't even peer into her eyes for 2 seconds. Was all the practice with Grace for naught? Good evening, welcome to the Lorelei. That's how you shorten it, huh? Why, indeed it is. A deep breath, then I feel ready to take a closer look at the various pastries and truffles they're selling. Sadly, the Prologue been sitting in the case all day, but such is the life of a student. I spot my objects of desire instantly. I'll have a Mont Blanc, an orange cream puff, 2 of today's special truffles, and a large cup of black coffee. An entire meal's worth of calories, but such is the life of a student. To my surprise, she doesn't give me any odd looks. One moment as I prepare your order. I can't wait. Excuse me, sir? You may go sit down at a table of your choice. I'll bring your order to you once it's ready. Just from the few words she uttered thus far, I realized she may very well be around my age rather than older, which had been my original assumption. It was just the kind of misleading air she carried. Thank you. After being robbed without complaint by the enchanting patissiere, took me a moment to reread that word because I was about to say patisserie again, but I sat down by a table by the window. I take a look around and think to myself that I might really look a bit out of sorts. This is far too nice of a place for a mere social recluse like myself. And now my thinning wallet is provenly not suited for such places either. She, on the other hand... She, on the other hand, looks like she belongs, in every sense of the word. Your order is ready. I glance at her name badge, then I do a double take. I knew it. She definitely hadn't carried herself the way an average cashier would. From the very beginning, there had been something about the way she spoke that gave off the impression of authority, and now I finally realize why. The patissiere herself is serving me my order. Today truly is a great day. On a tray comes the pastries I ordered, each looking delectable. Steam is rising from the cup. The fragrant aroma makes its way to me in seconds. The smell of luxury, that's the only way one could describe it. It all looks luxurious too, and so does she. I feel hunger bubbling up again. The contentment of an afternoon's lunch, a hastily made lunchbox, has run its course. I swallow loudly. My throat is drying up. Oh, thank you. Enjoy. She places it right in front of me, turns and walks off, back towards the counter. Her imposing aura exits the atmosphere. I can breathe again. I grab an orange cream puff, about to chow down when... Fingers are for naughty eaters. What? I instantly pull back my hand and run through my hand through my hair instead. Grace's voice can be heard in my head. I had to sneeze. This is the kind of place where you eat with a spoon. I drop the puff, frantically looking around. Nada. Peaceful as can be. Although I can see a silhouette vanishing out a window. Oh wait, it's just an insurance salesman. Those pesky insects come out at night, ambushing from the shadows. Or was that vampires? Either way, it's all the same to me. Shoving his sheaf of applications into his coat, he turns into a bat and flutters into the dim evening. Or maybe he just whirls off like a penguin. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. Grace ain't here. So why did I hear her? Terrifying. Truly terrifying. Back to my pastries. Good evening. I turn around because the sound of voices really come from behind me. The white-haired patissiere. She had blended in with the surroundings far too well. How long had she been staring at me? My first thought is I've done something wrong. That's the kind of air she exudes. I'm so sorry. May I interrupt for a moment? I saw you during the introduction day earlier, so I thought I'd say hi. Because if I don't and we end up taking the same courses, then maybe I get awkward. And my break's now, not later. And not to mention, this is how you make friends, isn't it? You talk to people, and since I'm on my break now, I thought I'd give it a try. She goes on, leaving no room for me to enter the conversation. I used to simply add people on my friend list after slaying a great deal of King Black Dragons with them. But since I can't do that anymore, I suppose this is what I'll have to do going forward. She exhales. What a bother, her demeanor tells me. When I took your order, I noticed the OSRS pin on your backpack. I like that game. Liked. And I assume you liked it too. So we have something in common, I thought. The past tense needed in this context seemed to be causing her problems. Also, I'm sorry, but you look out of place. I was debating whether or not to tell you, but I reached the conclusion that it's for your own good. No one likes a needle in their eye, after all, or for a select unlucky few to be one of those needles. I know you didn't ask, but that's also the reason I remember you from earlier today. I'm taken aback by the girl's quite accusative remarks. How do I respond to something like that? Something insulting yet intended to be kind. And more importantly, what alien layer of logic is this girl operating on? I look down at my worn-out jeans, my gritty coat, and my unpolished boots. Well, I can see where you're coming from. Just saying, if you come to blend in, you're going to need a makeover. I don't necessarily need to blend in. I'm fine with just not standing out. The girl looks straight at me with an inquisitive gaze, not 1 second later without missing a beat. Oh, you pulled that off without a doubt. I feel insulted. Deeply insulted. The kind you don't recover from. The kind you Google nearest burn center for. Somehow I still get the feeling she isn't intending to come off as rude. There's a very real chance that her divine appearance is playing tricks on me, but I crumple up that thought and discard it immediately. Well then, I made my move, now it's your turn. It's very quiet around here, isn't it? The girl is clearly eyeing the chair on the opposite side of the table. You want to sit down? Thanks. You're the type that's kind of slow on the uptake, huh? All I can do is blink at her. She sits down in front of me. She's looking at me with a leisurely expression on her face of inspecting a foreign species at the zoo, all the while in silence. I feel incredibly confused. More confused than I've ever been, possibly. Something attracts my eye. She's still wearing her name tag. Severine? Almost. Severine. It's French. I decide to push my confusion aside and make small talk. God knows I could use some practice. That's an uncommon name. Which side of your family is French? So real quick, just to explain, if you're not familiar with French, this is an acute accent mark. It makes the E sound have an A sound, so Séverine. That's how her name would be pronounced for using the French pronunciation. Neither. Strange, I know, but the explanation makes sense. It's the name of one of my father's past... Okay, that is awkward as all hell. It's the name of one of my father's past lovers, one who wasn't my mother, and who happened to be French. Yes, they're quite something, my parents. What am I supposed to say in return to something like that? I've told you who I am, now it's your turn. Well, whatever, I feel like she's already dissected my entire persona anyway. I stick my hand down my coat pocket and produce my new school ID. Séverine lightly takes it out of my hand and compares the picture with the actual thing. Then she hands it back over to me, expression still indifferent, still as if inspecting a zoo animal. You look better in the picture, Michael. Without replying, I huff in agony, as silently as I can. Well, it's probably true. Now it's her turn to produce something out of her pocket. She places a canned coffee on the table and cracks it open. You drink canned coffee? Why not? It's handy. Sure, yeah, but you got all kinds of exotic coffee here, haven't you? Just because I can appreciate the art of premium coffee from all over the world prepared at the hands of an expert doesn't make me immune to the temptation of the simplicity and convenience that is canned coffee. Can't argue with that, I suppose. I hope she's not supposed to be, like, going motor mouth 100 miles an hour with her words, but if she is, I can't keep up. Hope you guys understand. She takes a sip straight from the can, leaving a slightly dark contouring across her lip. How obnoxiously cute. I'll have to let her know, though. I make motions towards my own lip. She tilts her head at me. Seems my message has not gotten across. Your lips. A faint blush across her cheeks. Oh, you find my lips beautiful, thank you. Mother always said I had lustrous lips. It was one of my many blessings, she said. Another one would be my coffee on your lips. Oh. She grabs the napkin she had just a few minutes ago put on my tray and elegantly dabs her upper lip with it. Then she exhales a sigh of disappointment. So what? Are you not going to have the pastries I masterfully handcrafted for you? I spent hundreds of hours perfecting the recipe of those petites choux à l'orange, so anything but the deepest respect for them would be incredibly insulting. So I assume that's what an orange puff is called in French. I actually do not know my desserts, but yeah. Flawless pronunciation. My mind is in orbit from this girl. Did she spike my coffee with something? So I'm going to be perfectly honest. If there's going to be a lot of French in this one, I guess I could probably keep up a little bit. I just have to know some of the weird naming convention stuff. Mother wasn't too happy when she reviewed the expenditures of my spending account last October. Must have spent almost $1,000 on butter in just a week or two. I thought you said you weren't French. To the latter part, I found myself too shocked to reply to. I'm not. I studied French in high school, and then I moved to France for 2 years and I've been offered a position as an apprentice under one of the star pastry chefs of the century. Cool, huh? They thought I was French. Everyone does, but little did they know I have no French blood in my veins whatsoever. You're so slow. Give it a try already. Both my pride and patience are slowly dwindling. Have I been put under a spell? Or perhaps it really is drugs. I pinch my thigh under the table. Nope, definitely awake. Drugs it is. I pick up the cream puff, stare at it for a second, then I bite into it. Tingles begin to spread across the top of my head, down towards my neck, and then my back. An orange dream. The fullest taste of orange. From my taste buds and straight into my brain as if directly hooked up to a drug I was addicted to. Pleasure. Heavy sighs. I close my eyes. Have I died and gone to heaven? I hope not, because then I never get to relive the experience of having a cream puff like this one ever again. I open my eyes, desperate for another bite. Once Debbie met with the sight of the cream puff staring seductively at me, I met with Severine's serious demeanor, eyebrows raised beyond what my book should be humanly possible. She is definitely not trying to seduce me, not intentionally at least. You're drooling. I know it's good, but please contain yourself. It's unsightly. Still holding the napkin she used on her own lips, she brings it to mine and dabs firmly. Shivers go down my spine. Why is this all so sensual? My coffee really has been spiked, huh? Waves of dopamine are clearly sent off in barrages in my brain. Thanks. Did you spike my coffee? Sorry? I didn't think it was possible, but she raised her eyebrows even higher. The magnitude of disappointment is almost tangible. Never mind. I finish off my orange cream puff. I smile blissfully, trying to distract from my latest blunder. Then there's finally a quiet moment to save me from myself. Severine gently plays around with one of her long, lustrous strands of hair while sipping her canned coffee, her motion still elegant to perfection. She swirls the last sip of coffee in her can. She looks deep in thought. Her forehead makes a cute crease as she frowns for a moment, then she opens her mouth. Kindly reduce the intensity of your smile. It's making me uncomfortable. If words could kill, she'd be like Jack the Ripper, except rather than killing whores, she'd kill you horse. They'd make movies about her, I can imagine already. The larcenous larynx, Severine snake tongue, box office billions. I'm glad you like it, though. I take deep pride in my work. Had you not been impressed, I'm sure we could be friends. I'm not sure we could be friends. Her smile's intoxicating. In fact, her demeanor is so disarming I can imagine her breaking limbs in an extortion racket. I'm drifting off into a dream, and far, far away, I can hear seagulls and see puffy white clouds floating above the horizon. Oh. Her eyes snap to the side of me, toward the register. An old lady in a fancy coat, presumably a customer, is standing in front of the register. She scratches her head, looking around impatiently with her pursed lips snugly locked in place. My break is over. See you tomorrow. I snap out of my dreamlike state. See you tomorrow? In sociology class. I can sense myself fading out once more. The many pieces of the puzzle lock into place. I'll see her again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. On my way back, I see at least 5 of the new police boxes that have lately begun to pop up seemingly everywhere around the city. In class, they'd explained it the following way. With the discontinuation of digital communication for your average citizen, the idea is to increase the fiscal authorities' presence to keep people feeling safe. And honestly, I'd like to say that it was working. So they're not going to show us what one of these boxes looks like? During today's first lecture, I felt observed. I didn't know I could recognize a feeling I was entirely unfamiliar with, but there I was. Whenever I look around, something white would keep flickering in the corner of my eye. I decided not to think more about it, but there was indeed something strange lurking where I couldn't see. One thing was for certain, though. It was white. Then it was lunchtime. I took the stiff ham baguette I had prepared out of my bag and unwrapped it. I finished most of it, however. I couldn't even get up from my chair to throw away the wrapper before I was stopped by an immense presence. It's you. It's me. Do not get up from your seat. In fact, sit still or I'll have to use force. A subtle and enamoring aroma of lavender travels through the air between us into my vicinity. I figured out it was lavender immediately, but there was an undertone of something alongside it. Yes, the smell of money. Not a smell I'm familiar with myself, but I'd experienced it once before, and there was only one common denominator. Her name is Severine. I feel as if I've been put under a familiar spell once again. In her vicinity, it seems like a common occurrence. Out of her handbag, she pulls out nothing other than... She puts it down on the table, no, right on my notes, describing the fact that I've yet to put them away. Then a glass container to the right of the can of coffee. She opens the lid and neatly puts it up to the right. With a quick flick of her wrist, she has produced a napkin. With grace, she places it before me. Next is a small cake spatula, no longer than a pencil. Quite cute, actually. In a professional manner, she gently slides it into the glass container, lifts out a slice of what looks like carrot cake, and puts it down on the napkin, soundless from start to finish. The look in her eyes and the surgical precision of the neatly theatrical service I'm being treated to makes me feel unworthy. All this for what? I have served you with a post-lunch dessert along with a convenient canned coffee that will undoubtedly help you with your digestion from the atrocity you were putting in your body up until a moment ago. I put my dry and almost finished ham baguette back in its wrapper. If I don't, I might drop it out of shame, or she might yank it right out of my hand and put an end to its miserable life. Finish that sad-looking thing already. A magical experience is awaiting you. Then you have to praise me. Don't forget to praise me. I do as she says, not like I have many words to share with her at this moment anyway. They'd likely end up jumbled or as grunts. Either way, staying silent has got to be the right decision here. At this point, people have mostly left the seminar room, but the few that haven't are giving us strange looks, and frankly, who could blame them? I have no idea what was going on, and neither do they. I decided to just go ahead. It's not like she's trying to poison me, right? I put my sandwich back in my bag. You've made the right decision. She places a silver spoon into my hand. It's been warmed up. As it touches the cake, the frosting comes into direct contact and melts. A creamy and inviting texture is created. I cut off a mouthful with the spoon and bring it into my mouth. And then I hear angels cry. It's just that good. She's done it again. I tear up. Eyes still closed, I accidentally let out a weird noise. You're a genius. Genius, Severine. Thank you. This one wasn't as hard to master. I believe I only spent 2 weeks' worth of rent and butter on this one. But as you can clearly tell, it wasn't in vain. Now, try the coffee. Alright, I've decided I'm never going against this girl's will. She cracks open the canned coffee and brings it to my hand. It's really good. Really, really good. Full of anticipation, I bring it to my mouth. What meets my tongue is perfectly normal, lukewarm coffee with milk. It's not bad at all, honestly. However, it's terribly average. But why had it received Severine's seal of approval? I racked my brain for answers, but can't even begin to fathom why. Either way, certain things you should keep to yourself. I can tell this is one of those things. It's good. Thank you, Severine. You're welcome. She picks up everything she had placed before me without a word, sits down on the chair next to mine, and begins to unpack her own lunch. I open my mouth to say something, but I come up with nothing. She doesn't even look at me. Did she even hear me? Is this your idea of making friends? I don't know who you were in your past life, or what kind of burdens you carried, but there was undoubtedly something off about her. The room is now empty except for me and her. All that can be heard is her refined chewing. Posture perfect. No excessive noise and no faults. No faults. A picture-perfect act. I feel something heavy circulating around my chest area. Something had clashed with the blissful and almost comedic pulse of the last few minutes. It was dark. Reality had been bright just a moment ago, but now had begun to desaturate. We all have stories to tell and things we've been through, both before, during, and after 2018. I know quite a few things about Severine at this point, but not a single one of those things had I learned directly through her. Everything I had learned had been through deduction. I look at her, scrutinizing her further. She undoubtedly carries a powerful aura, an aura that invokes something in me that I've never really felt before. Not love, not sympathy, not fear, or anything else I'm able to put into words. But there is something special about her. If other people see it too, I don't know, but I know it's real. And it makes me wonder, what stories lie beneath that stoic surface of yours, Severine?